guys, it's Derek. Haven't done a video for a little bit. I've been busy with work, and a couple other things like visiting family and all that. But thought I'd do a video on a birthday gift I got a few weeks ago. As several of you might know, I'm a cook. I've been a cook for probably pretty close to 7 years now. And a very vital component of my job is my knives. And I've had knives, like several types of knives over the years. I've used what's been at the restaurants that I've worked at and everything. But my family got me a set of knives specifically for work. So I wanted to kind of show those off and kind of show you what a professional cook, I guess, uses on a day-to-day basis, and just kind of my setup for what I need at work. So get you guys moved around and show you what I got. Okay, so this is my knife roll, or a knife bag. I've heard them called both ways. This is what I use to carry my knives around, like to and from work. This particular one's from Noble, but I've seen people that have made their own, and I've seen a bunch of other ones. This one has done pretty well so far. I'm not a huge fan of the straps that they have on it right now. They don't really hold, they don't really strap down very well. But it works. It's not the end of the world. So open this up. Let's see. Okay. So this has a little different feature than some of the other knife rolls I've had, where it has a separate thing, and that just gives you more storage space. In here I have a couple things. Let's see if I can get them out. Okay, so this is my whetstone. I honestly can't tell you what kind it is, but I've had it for a really long time. If you can kind of see, you can kind of see it. But on the top here, there's a coarse grit, and that's what you'd use to initially get your knife ground down. And then on the other side, you can see it a little better here. On the other side is a finer grit. This is pretty basic sharpening stone, whetstone. There's others, other people may have 2 or 3 different stones that have different grits on them, and that just hones your knife down to a more exact edge. This works for me. I carry it around with me. I don't use it a ton at work, but it's good to have. And with this little pouch, it's pretty easy to carry around. So you might as well have it with you. It's actually one of my more favorite kitchen tools, both for home and for the restaurant. This is actually a digital scale, and it collapses down. So you have it like this, and then the readout's down here, and it's got a couple buttons you can do. You can change it from grams to ounces or pounds or whatever you need, fluid ounces and all that. But the sensors for it are on the bottom right here. So you put it on a flat surface, and you can set like a bowl or a plate or whatever on here, and then turn it on, and you're ready to go. and I found this a while back. This is Joseph and Joseph. I found it online, but it works really well, and it doesn't take up hardly any space. Like, I can put this in my pocket if I really need to. But it's a good thing to have. I usually have a scale at work that I can use, but again, it's one of those things it's nice to have, and it fits in my knife roll really well. And over here, I've got a veggie peeler and a set of measuring spoons. I have a set of measuring spoons at work. There's nothing special about these. These are, stainless steel measuring spoons. We have multiple sets at work, and you can never find them. They're really easy. They disappear really easy, so it's just easier for me to have a set in my roll. And then this is one of my favorite veggie peelers. It's from a company called Rata. One of my knives that I have in here is actually from the same company. I think you can find them online. I know some people sell them like similar to like a Mary Kay or something like that, where it's, there's representatives you can get stuff from. I really like this one. The pivot, or where the blade actually is, where my index finger is right now, it doesn't move around that much. I really like that. It makes it a lot easier to deal with, and if I need to sharpen it, I can. I'm not chasing the blade all over the place. I've had this for a couple of years now, and I haven't had to sharpen it at all. So they do pretty good work. And their handles, I really like their handles. It's like a resin handle, I think. It doesn't feel quite like plastic, but the handles are good. They're really easy to keep clean, and they do a really good job. So, and then normally I'd have like a magic marker or a pen right here. Everything I do at work I have to label and date. That's the health code rules. I took that out because nobody, it's a Sharpie. Nobody needs a review on a Sharpie. Okay. And then I've got space for a couple more pens or some stuff right here, but I haven't found anything I like enough to put in there yet. One thing I might add eventually is a meat thermometer or something like that, because I use that I'm worried about temperature about so much at work as well. And then this part flips up, and here are all my toys. Okay, so I just rinsed these off, so there might be a little bit of streaking, but so most of my knives in my knife roll are Wüsthof. It's a German company. They make really good knives. There's a bunch of other companies that you can get knives from. If you're looking to set up a knife roll or whatever, just do whatever's within your budget that is comfortable to you. But this is my chef's knife. This is the most important tool that I have at work. It's very, a chef's knife. It's all purpose. It can do just about anything. I wouldn't necessarily have to have the rest of these knives if I had this, but these are more specialized, and they do a little bit better job. But this is my bread and butter. This is I have this in my hand 2/3 of my shift normally, and it's just one of those critical things if you're going to be cooking. And then here's my boning knife. It's also a fillet knife. They do kind of the same function. Has a little bit of flex to it, and that's good if you're going around bones. At the restaurant I currently work at, we do a lot with pork shoulder, and the getting around the the bone that usually comes with that. This makes really short work of it. And it does really well with fish too, although I haven't really used it much on fish. Yeah, I think it's a 8 or 10 inch. I'm not for sure. I think it might be 8. But really good. This is offset bread knife. It's a serrated knife. This is good for bread. It's good for soft fruit and like tomatoes and that kind of thing. It's pretty all-purpose as well. These are a little trickier to sharpen, but you don't have to sharpen them nearly as often because they have this serrated. This particular one is from Victorinox, and Victorinox is the same company that does Swiss Army knives, so they know their knives. I've always liked the offset serrated knives. They just seem to be a lot easier to use, or a lot more ergonomic, I guess. So, and Victorinox knives, the culinary knives and such, they're not terribly expensive, and they do a fairly good job. I know several cooks on YouTube and several people in real life that's what they started with, and they still use their Victorinox knives quite a bit. So that's another pretty good company that I've experienced. And then this, it's a paring knife. This is another Wusthof. This is for really good like detail work, and smaller jobs that you could still do it with the chef knife, but it's a little easier if you have a shorter blade. I use this for like cutting cauliflower florets and stuff that you want a pretty standard size. This is pretty good for that. And then this is another meat knife. This is the other one that I have from Rata. I don't know if you can see the emblem at all. Kind of. It's RADA if you guys want to look it up. But yeah, this is a meat knife. This is good for bigger hunks of meat. Like I said earlier, like I do stuff with pork shoulder quite a bit at work. I also do stuff with whole beef brisket, bigger cuts of meat. This would also be good for cutting steaks because you've got a pretty wide blade. It's not flexible, not very flexible at all, and it has a really sharp edge. It's a really handy knife. I've had this one for 3 or 4 years, I think, and it's my go-to knife for bigger cuts of meat. Does really well when you're cutting up chicken too. So, but yeah, that's all my knives. And then I have a sharpening steel that I got with everything. This particular one's from Wusthof. I haven't really found a huge difference in sharpening steels. They make them all pretty similarly. Most kitchens have one of these, or a few of these, but not everybody knows, how they're supposed to be used. This is just to hone your knife. A lot of people think that it's to sharpen your knife. That's not necessarily the case. Basically what this is to get an edge back on your knife 2 or 3 times, maybe a little bit more, between sharpenings. So I don't sharpen my knives every time I use them. I just hit it with this, and like what you want to do with it is you want to have your knife flat against it, and then you get a 90 degree, 45, and then like half of 45, and you want to start at the very edge of your knife, and you want to slide it forward and you want to keep that angle as close as you can. So you want to do that a couple times per side, and then so to get to the other side, you get the 45 and the half 45. Like that, and that's all you need, because the edge on these is so fine that after you cut it for a while, the edge actually bends over a little bit, and that's what makes the knife seem dull. When you hit it with a sharpening steel or a honing steel, you straighten that edge back up, so you don't have to sharpen it as often, and that makes your knives last a lot longer, because when you sharpen it, you're actually grinding metal off, whereas this, you're just standing the metal back up. So yeah, I've got all those, and then one thing that I've got that I kind of left out of frame because it wouldn't have looked nearly as good. For these, I have basically it's a knife protector. It's got a little bit of a slot right here, and you just slide your knife in like that, and I've got some, different thicknesses, different lengths. That's the one for my paring knife. But these aren't necessary, but it's a good idea to have them, because again, it'll keep your knives from dulling, just from moving them back and forth between work. So, but yeah, so this is my toolkit basically for work. This is a pretty standard setup for most restaurants. Depending on what they do at each restaurant, you might have a few more knives, a few less knives. It all just depends. And if certain cooks or chefs, they have different areas of that they specialize in. So they'll have different stuff with that too. Like I've seen knife rolls that they might have a set of like stirring spoons, or they have whisks that you can collapse that fold flat. I've seen those and that kind of thing, but this is pretty standard. This is 99% of everything that I use and have used over the years. So that's about it. I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you around next time.